Yeah, so I have like an introduction.
And I'm sorry, I'm Monique. I'll be the moderator for today.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Bobby.
Chris,
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Candidate for MC Senate.
Awesome. Nice to meet you.
Hello,
Hey.
Monique.
Hey, Bobby Latour. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Latour. We've been on email.
Okay, good. Good.
Just want
Oh, yeah.
to grab some water.
Absolutely.
Kind of get dehydrated, that's like the worst thing I can.
I better get
Never
this in
drink
case I
enough
gotta
water.
talk more than
I'm David Franklin. First session. Nice man. So you running for office?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm running for MC Senate District 15.
Oh, okay.
So where's 10?
Johnson County.
Oh, okay. Huh. I like that.
What is 15 here in Raleigh?
Yeah. Yeah.
What you running as?
You mean what party?
Yes.
I'm a Republican.
Okay, Libertarian.
Oh, okay. So what's your background?
So this is my first time running for anything. I've retired from the military.
Oh, okay.
Work at Pike Electric now.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. What do you do for them?
Run the warehouse and the material.
Really interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the material.
Yeah, my last job, I don't know if you've heard of the company before, but I worked for SEI.
Okay, I've heard the
You know
name.
those guys? They're out in Apex. We did industrial electrical.
Oh, okay.
So we had a couple guys that were on and came in. We did, we wired up the rock quarry out in Holly Springs.
Okay.
That was a fun job. That was the last job I had. I'm an electrical engineer, so,
Okay.
you know, I just, got into that and then control panels. And all. I love that stuff. You know.
Got it.
Did you take a picture of that?
Here's one of my cards.
Oh.
I won the last time, 22. I haven't got my new cards.
I'm still, the party's working on my webpage. It's still work in progress, but that would take you to what my
Oh, okay.
webpage, yeah. Right now it just has my bio. They're supposed to be putting some issues on there for me and stuff, but yeah, Libertarian, there's only about 10 of us in the state, so.
We're gonna get started in a few minutes. Give a little bit more time for somebody else to come on in here. This is really informal. I will let you introduce yourselves, only because I don't want to get any titles wrong, okay? and then we'll go from there. I'll ask the question, we'll start here, we'll go down, or would you prefer to start? We'll just go here, we'll start from the left and go to the right. You don't have to spend very long on the subject, you know, give your brief description. If you have nothing to say, please not speak first. Okay? I mean, you guys done this before.
Yeah.
It's nothing new, y'all.
That's right.
Right, just like a little organization.
And is there anything that you guys don't want me to touch on?
No, if there's something I can't talk about, I'll just tell you. I can't
Yeah,
do it.
that is completely fine. Is there any questions somebody wants me to ask them in particular? No, you're good. Okay, I was just making sure.
I'll touch
If I
on
wanna
most
say
of
something,
them.
I'll segue into it.
Oh, please do. Please do. This is not as formal. We wanted it to be comfortable. We didn't want it to be, you know, so I would like to carry that
Now,
along.
you Thomas's?
No, I am Thomas's assistant.
Okay.
I'm the one that has emailed you guys.
Okay.
I sent you guys the questions.
Awesome.
I sent you the letter. I just relayed it back to the boss. But yes, so we have spoken.
Okay.
We are familiar
You just
with
didn't
each
know.
other. No, you didn't know it was me. But yes, I'm the one that usually calls you too. That's me. No worries. Thank you guys for replying. Thank you guys for, we sent out an email to 91 candidates. So we really appreciate you guys for showing up.
You're welcome.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We're trying to do more in the community now that the business is growing in a way where we can make a stamp that actually is effective. So this is the start of many and different subjects, of course. But I guess this is the one that sparked the fire.
So you guys work with this area right around here, geography wise?
Yep. Yeah, I've been down there about a year now, a little over a year.
Is police work pretty big and all that right now? Okay, finding new recruits and everything?
We're recruiting, is retaining, but we're having a hard time. We're about 150 short, something like that.
150 short?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just from where we're staffed. We should be in excess of 1,000 officers, and I think we're 650, 700.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Always a big place now. A lot of people coming
Now, did you get any attorneys to show up? I know one invited. Said you were hoping to get some.
Yes, of course. But I think it was the timing as well. It was kind of short notice. The holiday season was going on. I believe if he would have pushed it a little further, you know, back, we probably would have gotten a little more as far as a diverse panel, so that we all could talk about the topics and actually, you know, have something to put forth. But other than that, yeah, that's about it. But like I said, we're gonna do it again. It's an election year, so we'll definitely be doing it again. Like I said, it probably won't be the same subject, but we do want to try to educate the community. There's a lot of things that our fellow neighbors do not know. And you know, everybody asks each other, but nobody really goes and finds the answer. So if we can put the answer in front of them in an easier fashion, then so be it, you know. But I was hoping his personal friend, an attorney, was going to be here, but like I said, the scheduling just didn't work out
Yeah, I remember this one
very
time,
well.
this guy's name was
But we
Riley.
did try. Like I said, 91.
He talked my son into going to the
We only got a few
hospital.
back, so.
I'll take you to the hospital.
But we
My
appreciate
son,
you guys. We
at
really
that
do.
time, he wasn't on medication.
We have my email,
First
so-
to go to the hospital.
Oh, we will
And
definitely be
he was
reaching
very
out
good with him and
again.
talked
It'll just
him
be a
into
matter
it.
of you accepting the
Always done really well.
invitation.
As long as I'm not doing, you know, my work's pretty flexible, so I can cut out a little, at least I can get here, just as long as
He's
I'm
doing really
not,
well now.
you know, some other
Oh,
obligation.
Right, right.
Yeah, he lives with
And
me.
like we do a lot of
Two autistic
community
nephews and a Down
events.
syndrome
Not so much. This is our first forum.
Okay,
But we just did like a book bag drive. We just did a Christmas drive.
okay.
And we have a good turnout for that. So we were hoping that it would kind of spill over. But we'll see. We'll see what it is, and get the kinks out for the next one. But yeah, that's another reason why we had a lot of community people ask us questions about certain things, and well, why not, give them the information directly in a easy format. And it doesn't look like we'll be here for the whole 2 hours anyway. But this is going to be recorded, and we are gonna, put it out to the public, put it on our website, things of that nature. So
Thank you.
it's not going for naught. You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna see it besides these beautiful people in this room. Yeah, we're ready for you, sir.
Okay. All right, everybody, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. My name is Thomas Hope, owner and operator of H&H Resolutions. I'm a professional business solver. I help people find needs where people need help, and we go in and fix the problem as we see fit or as they need help. Today we're going to be going over policies with police policy and procedure. And we're gonna be talking about the CBD laws and marijuana laws as they pertain to Raleigh, North Carolina. All right, thank you.
All right, we are going to start by introducing our panel today. We're going to start at the very end, please.
So my name is Bobby Latour. I'm a captain with the police department. I'm the district commander of the Southeast District, which is where we're located right now. I've been in this role for a little over a year. I've been a police officer for 26 years, all with Raleigh.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, my name's David Banker, and I'm running for State Senate District 15,
All
which
right.
is here in Raleigh. I'm a proud electrical engineer. I've always had a thing for solving problems. That's what engineers do. We solve problems, we fix things, we build things, and I think it's real important in our society today to have a vision for what we want our society to look like and try to key toward the young people. I think that in today's society, the young people really have a heck of a time, and they need guidance from people that are older and wiser, and they need to be reached out to and brought along so that they can have a future. I think it's real important for people to have a good future no matter at what age they're at.
That's right. Yes.
Yes, hello, I'm Chris Sessions, and I'm the NC Senate District 10 candidate that's Johnson County. My beautiful family back here. I also have 2 other daughters. I'm retired military, retired as a sergeant major. I have an MBA from Franklin University. And one of the reasons why I'm here today, when I announced one of my number one priorities was getting medical marijuana passed in North Carolina. As a veteran, I've seen the life-changing effects it's had on my fellow veterans. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to run and just hope to make a positive change.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You, everyone, our panel, please give a round of applause. And my name is Monique Bastien, and I will be your moderator for this evening. So let's get started. Come on in. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Don't let me interrupt the meeting.
I was about to say, are you sure you're not supposed to be on that side of the table?
Maybe. Is it time Scott last year? Yep.
Yes, you are. Come on down.
Sorry, all right. What did I win?
But before you sit, please introduce yourself.
Hey, y'all, I'm Scott Lassiter. Currently privileged to serve Wake County as soil and water supervisor, vice chair of that board of elected officials, and then also something I'm excited to share some expertise on now. I'm the assistant principal, one of the administrators at our alternative middle school here in Wake County. So school safety and all that sort of those community issues are really important to me. So I look forward to sharing.
Okay, thank you. Let's welcome Senator.
Oh, did I say I was running for state senate? Did I say that?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
You didn't?
Yes. The southern part of the county. So that's why I was late. I'm telling you, infrastructure is important. Those roads were tough.
It is. It's very important, especially this time of day.
Yes.
So you did pretty good. It's only 6:12.
Yes.
We literally just
Okay.
started, so you are right on
Yes,
time.
ma'am.
We are about to dive into these questions. Our first set of questions will be in reference to CBD laws. We will start with Lieutenant Latour and proceed down. All right. What is the current legal status of CBD in North Carolina, and how has it evolved over the past few years?
Okay. So I'm gonna prelude you all to a revelation. I was not a drug detective. I do not have a ton of experience when it comes to drug work, so my knowledge of it is limited. I believe CBD is legal right now. I believe. I don't recall, to be honest with you, now I just said that out loud. Hemp is legal,
Yes.
and marijuana is obviously illegal. But I don't really have a big working knowledge as far as the progression and transition of it.
Okay, I mean, that was a very detailed explanation for yourself. Yes,
Well,
Mr. Lassiter.
Thank you so much. Well, Lieutenant, you probably won't be surprised that as a middle school assistant principal, we are exposed to all sorts of things.
Yes.
And, so I understand that, well, first of all, from a legislative standpoint, and as somebody that's looking to hold office, one of the most difficult things our lawmakers face is keeping up with new drugs, whether they be illicit drugs, illegal drugs, scheduled drugs. As fast as laws are passed,
Yes.
tweaks are made.
Yes, sir.
That get around those laws. Personally, I also believe that, we can't legislate our way out of some problems that we have in our communities.
Right.
CBD, we know, has got some helpful benefits. It is used by folks for a whole host of different reasons, and sometimes under doctor's care. I think it's like anything. It sort of exists in a gray area right now where you don't know. Are you buying it from the guy at the van, in the van at the flea market?
That's right.
And where did it come from? What is it? They can put pretty much anything they want to on the packaging and sell it. When you go to the store and you buy your Budweiser, you know what's in it.
Right.
So there's some difference in that. When you go to the store and you buy the whatever it may be, oils or edibles or those things, I think one of the most concerning things, sort of like some of the supplements that people take,
Yes.
the bodybuilding, work like that, you just don't really know what's in it. So some of it's legal, some of it's not, depending on sort of that cannabinoid
Bubble.
Percentage.
Yep.
Mr. Banker?
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, the CBD is legal and the marijuana is not. And, I really don't know that much about it, to be honest with you. I drive by and I see there's a lot of stores,
Catering to said
well,
products.
every, corner store has a, smoke shop, CBD and all this, and there's all this, and I drive by, I really don't know that much about it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So, I know that there's theoretically benefits to it, and, I think that's something that would be worthwhile exploring, to understand that. I think there's, like somebody like me, I don't really have much of an education on it at all, but, I guess there is, benefits to it.
Right. Mr.
So,
Sessions.
let me start out, not a lawyer, this information's coming off the internet and some stuff I've just researched because I am passionate about this. So, what the legal status is that, 2018 Farm Bill legalized hemp under a 0.3% THC. So, as long as the CBD comes from under the 0.3, it's legal. If it comes from marijuana, which is over that, it is illegal in the state. And I want to say what I want moving forward since I am running for office. And right now, NC has pretty good regulations on CBD and hemp products because they don't really have additional regulations besides what's in the Farm Bill. And I just propose we keep it that way. We don't need to add additional regulations. The only thing that I would say we need is what the officer brought up, of, my fellow colleague, is make sure it's properly labeled, that what it says is in there is in there.
Okay. My next question is, and I'm gonna keep this portion just a little shorter, because Mr. Sessions just broke it down to us basically what the information is I'm going to ask. But my next question in the CBD area, and then we'll move on to marijuana. My next question in the CBD area is there any way that we North Carolinians are able to differentiate between hemp-derived CBD and marijuana-derived CBD? I'm gonna go to you, Mr. Sessions, because you seem to be ready.
So, if you're talking about physically looking at it, no, it's the same plant.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference. There's literally no way to, without testing it, tell the difference. So one of the things I suggest, if you're carrying the stuff, if you go to the smoke shop and you get the legal products, keep it in the original container because there's no way the cops can tell. Another thing is I believe we need to legalize marijuana because what they're doing is they're taking the hemp products that are under the 0.3% and they're chemically altering them to give you the same effect as marijuana has. So instead of taking something with the chemical, why not just get a natural plant?
Lieutenant Latour, is that a
Yeah,
safe
there's no
statement?
way to tell. They look the same, they smell the same.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to the percentage of the THC that's in it. So he's correct that it's 0.3.
Mm-hmm.
So if an officer sees it, and it's not in some type of packaging that would identify it as CBD, or if an individual, let's say they don't have a receipt for it, they can't show you, then the officer's gonna assume that it is marijuana.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have anything else to contribute in reference to CBD before I move on to marijuana? Mr. Sessions has let us know that 3% CBD is legal. You can have that. Anything over that is not. We also know that hemp is okay and marijuana is illegal.
Right.
All right.
The only thing I'll mention is, like so much that our law enforcement officers deal with, there's a great deal of discretion.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know and have spent enough time working with our law enforcement partners, that I can tell you, I truly believe that the vast majority of them are not out here, looking for small quantities of CBD to try to plant or, to hem somebody up with that.
Right.
And I'd encourage anybody, to sort of approach it from that perspective, recognize that if the worst thing that you have is some CBD on you that's above 0.3%,
Yeah.
it's not worth getting yourself in a conflict with law enforcement officers, because I bet more often than not, other factors contribute to how that night or day ends with that individual.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to marijuana, we know that the current legal status of marijuana is that it is illegal. But how do North Carolinians handle the possession, sale, and cultivation of marijuana if it's for medical purposes?
Marijuana is illegal regardless, so I wouldn't mess with it. You know, like you're saying, you know, I've been here long enough. Whenever I started, you were looking for weed. That was the thing you were gonna find on people. You were looking for weed. In the grand scheme of things, has that fallen down on the totem pole? Sure. You know, as a district commander, when I came to the southeast, what we were experiencing in Raleigh was rampant violent crime. It was horrible. I think I had in excess of 25 murders last year in this district alone. There were aggravated assaults, houses getting shot up, robberies constantly. And so I was tasked when I came down here of primarily reducing violent crime.
Okay.
That's my primary goal. You know, anybody that lives in my district, I'm responsible for. That's how I look at it. And so, although I try to prevent property crime, primarily I want to keep people safe.
Yes.
And so one of the best ways that we found in law enforcement doing that is to be proactive. Specifically when it comes to drugs, gang activity, any vice, prostitution, those type of things. So I formed a unit whenever I came down here that sole task is to go out and pursue the criminal element. And typically what they get involved in is the drug-related activity. Because we know that drugs tends to lead towards violent crime. They go hand in hand.
Connected, yes.
And so we don't just go willy-nilly all about. We use intelligence, right? So we track data in the district. That drives us where we go. We take complaints from residents. So that will drive them where they're directing their efforts. And then they're out just looking for the criminal element. Now, typically, if they just find you with marijuana, more often than not, you're probably just gonna get a citation. When I started, you would have never verbally warned somebody for marijuana. It would have never happened. Officers will verbally warn them now for marijuana. So they have discretion. And we're not out here, like he was saying, we're not out here trying to harass people or mess with them. I'm looking out for individuals that are doing criminal acts.
That's
and
right.
sometimes you stumble across other things.
Right.
So possession of marijuana by itself, like what you're saying, it's illegal in North Carolina.
That's right.
Period.
You know what? We do have a portion for Q&A, but since we have such a great crowd in here today, why not? Do you guys mind? Not at all?
Sir, if you don't mind, I'm just curious, thank you for working with violent crimes. It's really important and it takes a toll on people. So, respect on that journey, friend. But have you noticed a difference in drugs associated with violent crime? Is marijuana often associated with that?
Yeah, it's any number. Typically, if you're doing a search, marijuana's right there with the other stuff. You know, when I started, everybody called the marijuana the gateway drug, right? And I've experienced that. I've seen multiple people that what they start with is marijuana, and then they progress because the high and they lose the high because it's like any medication that you're taking, right? If I'm taking painkillers and I take 2 Aleve every day, eventually that's gonna wear off and I might have to pop up to 3. So a lot of times what we see is they'll start with something like marijuana or alcohol. Then they move up to the next thing, they move up to the next thing. You know, when I started, heroin was the bad thing. Everybody talks about how bad heroin is. Now it's fentanyl, right? So we see less marijuana, we see more fentanyl, and we actually see a lot of meth in this district. So I can say pretty definitively that the vast majority of the times that we're encountering gang members, the vast majority of the time that we're engaged in violent behaviors, drugs are right there with it. I get calls all the time, and I have different pockets of the district where it's going on. And you can see the pockets if you just drive down the road, drive down New Bern Avenue, drive past Plainview Drive.
I'm from Chicago.
Okay, so New Bern, well,
No,
you all- you all live in this-
please continue, it's all
Drive New Bern
right.
and Plainview. It's a war zone out there. I mean, people are constantly out there, they're on M30s, which are fentanyl pills, they're on meth. And normally what we see is when we get the drugs, we get guns with it. So we just did a big bust here recently, in the district where, we seized a large amount of currency, we seized a large amount of drugs, we seized 27 guns.
Wow.
They go hand in hand together. I've seen it borne out that my method is effective. I know it just experientially, but the data to support it. So in this district, in the 1 year that we've been down here and we've been pursuing it, my violent crime has dropped 7%. My homicides dropped 65%. My robberies from business dropped 35%. My robberies from person dropped 28%. My aggravated assaults dropped 5%, I think, total. So it's working. What my guys are doing is working. When I tell you we're doing it, they seized in 1 year over $7 million worth of drugs. In my district, we seized over 330 firearms in 1 year. So it's a long-term game for us with this. My philosophy with it, as far as relating to violent crime and drugs, is we're looking to take chess pieces off the chessboard that are valuable. Pawns don't bother me that much, right? If I encounter a pawn that's doing something illegal, we might have to take some type of enforcement action, but that's not the target. The target is the king and the queens, right? We're looking for big players that are bringing the mess in here. We try to take them off the chessboard for as long as we can in jail. Then we move on to the next one. The problem right now is the fact that the drugs are so rampant that in 1 day we made 4 arrests on Plainview, all dealers. So we literally take one dealer off and the other one's back before we even get back from jail.
Wow.
So, it is a problem out there. What I'm seeing isn't marijuana, right? It's not marijuana that's making them walk around like a zombie. It's the M30s, it's the heroin, it's the meth. Having said that, usually marijuana is somewhere in play with that seizure. The vast majority of the time when they get one drug, they're gonna get the weed's gonna be with it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you care, so it means a lot.
Yeah, thank you for that question. He gave out some really vital information that I think the community needs to know as far as numbers coming down. And that's something that we may not have been able to hear if we didn't have your question, so thank you very much. We're gonna move on with the next question. This is a personal stance in reference to marijuana. What is your stance, your personal stance, on the legalization of marijuana?
So I represent the police department, so I gotta be careful what I say. Right? I can tell you that me nor nobody in my family is ever gonna smoke marijuana if I have any say so in it. I will tell you personally that I have a couple of autistic nephews. I have a Down syndrome nephew, right? My sister's done a lot of research because one of her children is non-functioning autistic. He's self-injurious, okay? I know what stuff is out there. I do know the effects of it, right? So I can understand the argument of legalizing it for some people. As a police department, that's not our realm, so I'm not gonna weigh in as far as the police department's concerned on whether it should be legalized or not. We have to focus on, this is what's legal and this is what's not legal right now.
Right.
If you wanna make it legal, and we'll play by those rules, it's fine either way.
All right, check and mate. Turn over to Roy. Yes, please.
So LT, thank you for what you said and for sharing that data with us about Southeast Raleigh and the positive work the police department
Yes.
is doing. you guys have recently had a new chief with Stella Patterson being appointed. She's been at my school before. I see the sort of proactive approach that you guys are doing. And unfortunately, Southeast Raleigh gets a bad rap. And this is an amazing community. This is a great community. It has a wonderful heritage. It has just people that just form this wonderful tapestry. So, and I know the vast majority of folks in Southeast Raleigh are thankful for what you're doing to reduce violent crime, and reduce, drug use that leads to it. Before I get into my personal stance, and I too will talk a little bit about, I'm gonna give you my school administrator talk that I give to young people.
I like that.
And then I'm gonna give you my I'm running for state senate talk.
Yes, please.
So we'll have to change hats.
Hey, go ahead.
And that's all right. But I will tell you, when it comes to the issue of drugs, we know, and I think everybody that sits at this table right now can agree, that there are bigger fish to fry than CBD and marijuana.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I've had to knock on a parent's door and tell them that their child's overdosed from opioids or from fentanyl. And when you do that, I've never had to do that for marijuana use.
Right.
Or for CBD use.
Right.
I imagine
Wow.
you're in the same boat. You have to prioritize your resources, right? Unfortunately, what we're seeing is it's not necessarily the everyday or occasional recreational user that's out here wreaking havoc in the community. It is truly the dealer. It's the person, because drug dealing is violent.
Right.
It's a dangerous business. There's not really a retirement plan for your drug dealer. There's only one way.
You're only going one place.
There's
That's
only a couple
right.
of ways.
There's only one place to go.
That's jail or that's in the ground.
Either one.
And either one is really unfortunate. And unfortunately, we know that when we do negative things in our community, whether it's selling drugs or committing violent crimes or even property crimes, or even just sowing seeds of hate, that's that rock that drops in the water, and you see those ripples that go out, and you never know who it affects.
Right.
So I just want to take a moment and sort of address that, and address how it's all interconnected with gang violence, how it's interconnected with youth violence and crime, because unfortunately, what we are seeing, and nobody's mentioned this tonight, but it's something that's near and dear to my heart. As fast as you are able to lock up your adult drug pushers and dealers, unfortunately, what they're realizing, because it's like a balloon. When you squeeze it in one place, it goes to the easier place, and it finds weaknesses in the system. What they're realizing is that a 16-year-old or 17-year-old or a 13 or a 12 or a 10-year-old, or unfortunately, as hard as it is to believe, an 8-year-old can be used to move these drugs. And you'd be surprised just how hard a 9-year-old that doesn't have food on their table will work for $20. And unfortunately, this is where they're finding the weakness. This is where, as a community, we have to come together and support those young people that are in vulnerable situations, and make sure that their best option isn't to do that they understand that we can't sell our future or put ourselves in that danger for what seems like a big reward right now, but it's really not. And we've got to do some work around juvenile justice reform.
Yes.
Unfortunately, when we have young people that know the worst they get from the man with the badge is a paper to go see a court counselor in a few weeks, and they don't understand the gravity of what they're doing. It becomes a joke.
Right.
And a 17-year-old can do an awful lot of harm in the community if they don't have the right supports. There's an old saying that says, if we don't bring the child into the village, they're going to burn it down.
That's right.
And, it's not about locking up these kids. It's not about harsh punishments. What it's about is bringing them into our village, making sure they see a better way.
Right.
But also, we have to be doubly hard on the folks that are exploiting our young people. And that's really what it is an exploitation of young folks. And that's going to take a lot of us, and that's really, really sad. And, I will say, when it comes down to talking about legalizing marijuana, I think in the state of North Carolina, we're going to see medical marijuana move. We have seen that we've seen movement towards that in both chambers of our legislature. We're not there yet. I I think there's some real concerns about what it does to our youth that is worthy of thinking about that. Anybody that has an understanding of what even CBD or marijuana does, you know, to the developing brain.
That's right.
It's the same sort of situation that you deal with alcohol or prescription pills. It's not a good thing. Also, just simply what it can do to somebody that needs to hustle, right? You know, a young person needs to get their stuff together. They need to be out there pushing and building their future. And if what you're doing is sedating them with something that makes the couch seem more comfortable than the textbook, that may not be a positive place to be either. So my real concern with it comes to how do we truly educate our youth about the dangers of it, what it really does, and keep it and keep it from being this sort of cottage industry.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Mr. Banker?
Well, I think if you look at some of the states that have legalized marijuana, I think it's legal in California and Washington State. Is it Oregon? And Colorado,
Virginia,
and New York. Is it Virginia? And you know, Washington D.C., different places. And I just think that like legalization takes away from it just sort of makes the society in general go down in a way. Because it's like when you legalize it, it's sort of like putting it like, oh, this is okay now, just go ahead and it's a free-for-all.
right.
Having it illegal, you know, given that in the scheme of things, it's not maybe as big a deal as, you know, the other drugs and so forth.
Right.
That you know, it's a tough one. I think you have to look at the overall benefit and the overall cost in society to that. But if it does get regulated or it does get legalized here in North Carolina, I think it has to be very well regulated. What that looks like, I don't know. I think there have to be a lot of things looked into in terms of you know, dispensary regulation or what have you. You know, sometimes I think all the vices we have in our society, we should just have, you know, one building with the ABC store, the liquor, or the, you know, lottery tickets, everything, have it all in one, like a one-stop shop or something, and have it all regulated. I don't know. But I just hate to see that the children, the youth, get to the point where they're walking around like zombies. And, you know, having it legalized, I think it would have a lot of that. So, you know, I'd probably say for the time being, I'd come down on the side not, but then again, it's not something that I would completely rule out either.
Not a problem.
Good
Thank you.
study.
Thank you. Yes,
All right.
Mr. Sessions.
Thank you for your input.
Yes.
I would like to start out with the legal status of medical marijuana. I think that was the original question. So there's a lot of support in North Carolina for medical marijuana. Polling is at 73% of the citizens want it. The votes are actually there in Congress. It passed the Senate 36-10. It would have passed the House, but House Speaker Tim Moore wouldn't let it bring up to a vote because they said the majority of Republicans did not support it. So that is why we need to elect pro-marijuana candidates, because one person can stop it. We need as many people in Congress that support this if we want to get it done. And then I want to touch on some of the things that were said. First of all, the gateway drug. I'm not saying it's not a gateway drug. Yes, most people that move on to harder drugs do use marijuana first. However, it is also a gateway drug going the other way. A lot of people use marijuana to get off harder drugs, especially prescription drugs and medical marijuana. I've seen people taking multiple drugs a day with terrible side effects, gave them all up for marijuana. The guy that founded AA actually used LSD to cure his alcoholism. So it goes both ways. Addressing the fentanyl issue in the black market. So I know we're not going to legalize heroin in North Carolina, so if I'm elected, it's not going to be a priority. But prohibition's terrible. So what's going on with fentanyl is most people don't choose to take fentanyl. It's because it's laced with stuff. There might be a few out there that's their drug of choice, but it's not the majority of people. They're getting fentanyl because the stuff's cut with it. During alcohol prohibition, people were going blind and dying because of bathtub gin. As soon as they legalized alcohol again, people quit dying. Yes, there's still some dying of alcohol poisoning, but not to the extent they were. If we were to legalize heroin today, we would cut deaths a lot. The fentanyl would go away, the black market would go away, people wouldn't be killing each other. CVS and Walgreens on the same corner together. They're not shooting each other, not having kids moving drugs. People would be a lot better off if they could walk into Walgreens or CVS and get Vicodin or whatever they wanted versus having to go to a dealer. And when it comes to young, I agree, we need to keep the kids off drugs, 100%. I don't have the study in front of me, but if you go to my Facebook page, Sessions for NC Senate, I actually shared an article where they've done studies and kids are saying that it's harder for them to get marijuana in places that it's legal. Also, talking about saving people, in Portugal, they decriminalized all drugs and they've cut overdoses in about half. That's about all I got on that.
Well, thank you. Did anybody want to piggyback off of Mr. Sessions?
I read an article recently where out in Oregon, they had decriminalized some of the hard drugs, and then they had a lot of problems and they recriminalized it.
I'm not aware of their recriminalizing it, but I can give you the background on that. So Oregon did the math, and they figured out that they could send anybody to rehab that wanted to go to rehab for the money that they were spending on enforcement and jailing the people.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that information. I'm going to move on to police policies and procedures. And of course, we're going to start with you, Mr. Latour.
Mhm.
What are the standard operating procedures for law enforcement officers in North Carolina when encountering individuals in possession of CBD products? And how do these procedures differ from those involving marijuana?
It's basically the same. Again, it comes back to, so in North Carolina, the law used to be what was called a plain smell doctrine. So if an officer approached you and you're in your car and they smell marijuana, or what they believe to be marijuana, it had such a distinctive smell that you were able to have probable cause to search a vehicle. Back in my time, you had to get exposed to it. A lot of my friends had gone to different schools that they had seen it. I had never seen marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be exposed to what the odor was, and it definitely has a distinctive odor. Now, the law changed a few years back where basically the courts have said that they want the odor of marijuana plus something else.
Mm-hmm.
The plus something else can be a gamut of things, too many for me to sit here and name. It's all dependent on the specific incident that they're dealing with. It could be simple as known activity, the location that they're at, the time of day, the odor, a statement made by the driver. There's a host of things that it could be made. But they want something other than just the smell. Again, what was already said, if you have CBD, it needs to be packaged in a CBD container. You need to have some way of being able to show it, because just looking at it, an officer's not going to be able to differentiate between what's marijuana and what's not. And again, the difference between the two is they're both cannabis plants, just the THC level.
Right.
One doesn't reach the threshold of 0.3 and the other does. So absent of some extenuating circumstances where the officer can say definitively that this is CBD, then they're going to assume that it's marijuana, and it's up to the courts to be able to prove that it was marijuana or not. Again, If you're dealing with just personal usage, the vast majority of the officers that I have personally come across on the department are either gonna just issue a citation or verbally warn you. Is that a policy? No.
Okay,
Policy is that any misdemeanor, you can go to jail, period. And they're not gonna restrict it because the officer has to have some form of discretion. One of the only misdemeanors that requires, arrest as far as policy is if you're dealing with domestic violence.
okay,
Other than that, officers have the discretion to be able to deal with it however they want. They don't have the discretion to leave it with you, right? So if they see it and they believe it to be marijuana, they have to seize it. They
okay,
have to write a report, they have to put in the evidence. Whether they charge you, whether they verbally warn you, charge you on a citation or take you to jail, is completely up to that officer.
okay. Panelists' feelings about said procedure or policy?
So I will give y'all a sort of a glimpse into our public school system today.
Please.
Because we, as administrators in public school systems, we partner with our school resource officers, whether it be Raleigh officers, other municipal officers, or sheriff's deputies. But there's a quasi sort of law enforcement role. If we think back to nobody wanted to go to the principal's office.
Right.
Usually meant you were in trouble.
Right.
Right? There's a
Right.
rule and sort of a procedural process there. If you're doing something wrong, you're probably trying to hide from the vice principal, right? I want to echo a little bit about what the lieutenant said, and that is, you know, we have policies and procedures that we follow, but there is also discretion
Yes,
amongst administrators.
that was a big thing.
There's two things in the state of North Carolina that requires a school administrator to suspend a student legally, where we have to. I don't know that this is a sort of a well-known fact, but it's possession of an actual firearm on a school campus, or some sort of explosive device. Those two things are the only thing that state law says, as a school principal, you must suspend for. And those are automatic 365 days you're out of the school. Other things, we have different school board policies that we follow. Again, it's the same thing. You're never gonna find a principal in the Wake County Public Schools that is gonna hand the child back their vape if it has CBD in it, or hand back a bag of weed.
Right.
But you will also oftentimes find administrators that are gonna take a more educational approach, and instead of calling their SRO and demanding that the student be charged, we have options for sort of drug education classes that we can send students to. We have options, for a student that, you know, says, look, I picked up my sister's book bag and I didn't realize that this vape that was in it contained CBD, right? And maybe it's just found in the normal course of the day. So again, that discretion is key. And, you know, it would be nice if we could, and I understand, right? Sometimes that discretion can be misused. Sometimes that discretion calls us into question, you know, who's applying it and to whom are they applying it. But it's something that I advocate for with our officers. It's something I advocate for with our school administrators, because we have to be able to have the opportunity to distinguish between sort of a mistake or a student that has made one bad choice and somebody that needs to have their, or a citizen that is just a victim of circumstances, and somebody that really needs to be funneled down that exclusionary discipline path in the school system, or funneled down that criminal justice system path, if it be a law enforcement officer. So when we talk about zero tolerance policies, I really caution folks to think about what they're really asking for in those situations.
Gotcha. Thank you. Mr. Baker?
Can you please re-ask the question?
Yes. What are the standard operating procedures for law enforcement officers in North Carolina when encountering individuals in possession of CBD products, and how do these procedures differ from those involving marijuana? I was asking your feeling on what Lieutenant Latour said, because he did answer. That was mainly for him.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't think I
But if you have any feedback on that,
right.
then yes, of course.
We talked a lot about that.
Right.
But,
I was just getting your
you know, I
feeling.
think what it comes down to is, you know, the discretion, but, you know, I'm not really qualified to answer that. I don't think.
Well, that's what Lieutenant Latour said. Discretion is the main factor. Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree with the discretion, and I hope it's used often. I think there's better things that law enforcement can be doing. Violent crime And then I would also put out to everybody, if they are pulled over, and they do have some kind of product that is suspected of being illegal, you know, shut up and ask for a lawyer.
Okay. Back to Lieutenant Latour. Now, without giving away any secrets, how are police officers trained to distinguish between the two?
Yeah, I think we pretty covered it.
Yeah, okay.
The totality of the circumstances that you're dealing with.
Is there any specific
Looking
testing?
at it, there's testing that the DA could send it off for if they wanted to, but just looking at it, you can't tell the difference.
Right.
They're both a cannabis plant, and they both smell very similar. So it falls to the officer to have to dig into it a little bit to find out what they're dealing with.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Okay, from Mr. Lotor, because you just mentioned how, you know, they would have to send it out to be tested. How often do you test the marijuana that you possess from criminals for how much fentanyl is in it? Because I'm wondering how much of the marijuana you take from, you know, drug dealers, criminals, is not just marijuana, because I feel like that's where the bad rep comes from, is, you know, illegal drug dealers who give people laced weed, because I think that, for me personally, the positive for legalizing marijuana is that it's actually gonna be marijuana in the store that you go buy, and you have to be at least 21 years old, versus getting weed that has a good chance of being laced.
So I don't have that statistic. It would be up to the district attorney if a charge was made, whether they would wanna pursue spending the money to get it. Yeah, as far as testing is concerned. I can tell you, I've seen it where they do lace it, right? So you'll have overdoses where people are smoking weed and they've gotten it laced. It'd be laced with fentanyl, it could be laced with other things. I can't recall, and this might be saying what you didn't say, the gentleman on the end, but I talked about most of the fentanyl that they're getting is laced. That is not what we experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they might be getting fentanyl laced, but I just had a double overdose where they were snorting a line of fentanyl, straight fentanyl, right? They're not buying laced pills, they're buying fentanyl pressed pills.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, marijuana discussion aside, fentanyl is an issue. There's numerous times where we've had individuals overdose. We just had a teenager, no history of drugs at all. Worst thing his mama knew he was doing was vaping.
Mm-hmm.
Dead. And they found fentanyl pills underneath.
And Lieutenant, we are seeing it younger and younger, as fast as fentanyl has become sort of common vernacular now. We understand what it is. Well, now there's something else, right? And it's a horse tranquilizer. I forget the medical name of it, but it's wrecking some of our cities. They're calling it trank. You've got folks lacing marijuana with embalming fluids. I will tell you, everybody that's here, and I hope you will share this far and wide. If you care about your life, now is not the time to do street drugs.
Yeah.
Of any kind, because it is a very different world out there, and what you're told you're getting.
Buyer's remorse, buyer's beware.
That's right, and it's tough when you've got every police officer in Raleigh having to carry Narcan in their go bag, and you've got every principal in the school system with Narcan in their desk.
Wow.
We know we're in trouble.
Well, that's why we're here to educate. That's what we're here for. Any feedback, you two?
I would just have to say that, in our society, and, Donnie Harrison has said this, that, you know, the Wake County Jail by and large is a large mental hospital. There's a lot of issues regarding our society today and people's mental, you know, people are depressed, they're anxious. And the young people today, I mean, coming into this world that we have is just, Boy, I'll tell you, I grew up a long time ago, and in the life today for the children, it's,
Way harder than what it
yeah,
was.
and it's like, there's gotta be another way to try to educate beyond just the don't do drugs paradigm, but to give people something more positive to engage in, so that drugs isn't their go-to thing.
Right.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. That I can accept. Mr. Sessions?
No, nothing bad.
Okay. My next question is, are there specific guidelines for the interaction between law enforcement and individuals using or possessing marijuana or CBD for medical purposes?
Not in North Carolina, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My last and final question of the evening, and then we'll go into some Q&A. How does North Carolina law enforcement collaborate with other agencies, such as the state's Department of Agriculture, to stay informed about changes in CBD and marijuana regulations?
I don't know that they might, it'd be above my pay grade for those that are collaborating. We do collaborate with other law enforcement agencies, right? So, we just did a project that I referred to earlier with the DEA. We work with the FBI. So you're working with other agencies. And then our legal team, basically the police department, we have 3 attorneys that are employed by the city that render legal advice to the police department. And they're the ones that keep us updated on, the laws as it relates to marijuana or CBD or hemp or any of it, right? Along with a host of other things. In fact, I sat in a legal update today. So we get updates as far as that's concerned from that, so it's more coming from the court system.
Okay.
I could speak a little bit around that for my role, working in agriculture in Wake County. North Carolina was realistically, before all the tech jobs, before RTP, the state was built on tobacco products. There's still a huge gap, among our agriculture community that tobacco, has left, as some of the federal subsidies expired, as sort of the nation's capacity for smoking has decreased. So, there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of emerging stuff out there in the agriculture community about sort of transitioning, whether it be to a hemp-based product, from tobacco. How does that sort of fit into it? What does that look like for North Carolina's agriculture producers? And we forget about it in Wake County, right? Yeah, we've still got 600-700 active farms in Wake County. But for those of us that live in the sort of metropolitan part of Wake County, or even just in Wake County, we forget about what it looks like across this whole state. And there are folks, again, I'll say, echo Lieutenant's comment, there are folks above my pay grade that are looking about what that next cash crop for North Carolina is. And who knows? Maybe it is him. Maybe it is.
Okay. Any other statements, gentlemen? Okay. I'm going to open the floor for Q&A. If there's any other questions that would like to be asked, now would be the time.
Are any of you aware of THCA? No.
I'm not, back to my original statement. Based on how I responded to CBD, that should have given you a clue. I don't know what the THC is.
Not his forte.
So, it's, from my understanding, it's basically like the Delta 8, where they take the hemp, they chemically alter it to give you the same effect as marijuana. So, going back to one of my points, why don't we just legalize marijuana that's natural instead of allowing chemically altered hemp?
Fact check you, Dad.
Okay, go on.
No, because I just read an article while this whole thing was going on, because I was curious about it, because you can buy THCA at the smoke store store, which you have to be 21 to buy it. But THCA is literally just THC, but one step lower. It's basically just marijuana, but yeah, it's the process to, you know, because you don't just get the plant and roll it up and smoke it. There's a long process that goes to it, but it's just one step lower, and you can buy it at the store. And if it gets, like, if you have THCA and it gets above a certain temperature, it's THC. But you can buy it at the store, even though marijuana is illegal in NC. So I was wondering if any of you knew about that.
So, that's quick, so how would you deal with that if it's indistinguishable from actual marijuana?
If they were, I would fall back to, if the officer cannot be able to determine,
Discretion.
and they believe that it's marijuana, they have the discretion to verbally warn if they want to, they're gonna seize it. Because they're gonna, if they're seizing it, they think it's weed, right? I can promise you, they don't wanna go and seize stuff if they don't have to, because now they have to go put in evidence. Now they have to write a report, then they have to dispose of the evidence later in the year. So every time that they are doing that, they're making work for themselves,
Gotcha.
right? So they're not just out willy-nilly like, oh, take this and take this, and, right? When you take it, you gotta do something with it.
And here's what I'll say, I'll build on that, and, you know, sometimes our partners in law enforcement, they have to be careful about what they say, so I'm gonna say it, and maybe they'll close their ears. I would argue that it's a rare day in Raleigh, North Carolina, in which the young person, or person of any kind, is walking down the street, not exhibiting negative behaviors, and suddenly the blue and white car pulls up,
Right,
tosses their pockets, and they're issued a citation or arrested for marijuana.
right.
I want y'all to think about the sort of coupling things that usually go with this.
Right.
Oftentimes marijuana is not the initial charge. It's not the reason folks are being looked at. It's not the reason for the stop. Maybe it gets access to certain things, but think about how we're behaving.
That's right, that's right. Thank you for that piece of information. I think we all learned a little something about that. And with that being said, I would like to thank our panelists for joining us today. We really appreciate the information that you shared. And honestly, it kind of gave me a better way of asking those questions. Because I'm a Virginia native. I'm not from North Carolina. So when I did look and I read, I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this. But now I see where there are other questions that have arrived. And hopefully the next time we can address those. But again, thank you guys for attending the first Holt & Holt Resolutions Community Forum. We look forward to having you guys again for something else. Maybe this again, and maybe with a way bigger crowd than we have here tonight. But of course, we truly enjoyed you. Thank you for your services. Thank you for trying to be a forerunner for the state of North Carolina. Yes.
I just have one final comment.
Yes.
So I have a son that's mentally ill, and he's been involuntarily committed, and the standard is a danger